Greetings, everyone. This is Dr. Stephanie Fletcher Lartey, and today I'm here to tell you about something really exciting. This week, I am celebrating a very special milestone of my life. I am turning 50 years old, and at the same time, this year marks 30 years since I started my professional journey. To celebrate and to commemorate this important milestone in my professional journey, I have sat down with Dr. Eugenia Marembo to share my story with her. And over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be sharing different components and different parts of the story that I shared with Dr. Eugenia. I want you to stay tuned. I wanted to take a glimpse inside of my life. Many of the stories I will share, a lot of people do not know about them. And so I do hope that through this sharing, that you will get a better glimpse into different aspects of my own life journey, and it will help to encourage you. So over the next couple of weeks, I'd love for you to stay tuned as I share my journey right here on My Career, My Calling. So for me, public health was like my bread and butter. And I really feel like I was born for this career.
Yep.
I believe one of my greatest achievements was leaving an indelible mark in one of the communities where I served. Mm-hmm. So that foundation was really pivotal, and it is one of the greatest assets that I have earned in my entire professional career, mm-hmm. that is still serving me on the global platform.
Wow.
So stay tuned for part one of this amazing life story and my journey.
So welcome everyone to the My Career, My Calling podcast. Usually Dr. Steph is the one that's on the other side, interviewing people, getting their insights and getting them to tell their stories. But today the tables have turned. I am Eugenia Marembo and I have the special honor of interviewing Dr. Steph. This is a particularly special episode. We are coming up to a milestone birthday to celebrate, but that milestone birthday also coincides with a milestone in your career. 30 years of impact, Dr. Steph. That is just amazing. So before we dive in, just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. What would people who know nothing about you assume that they always get wrong?
Wow. Well, thank you, Dr. Eugenia, and I'm really happy to have you here with me having this conversation today. One of the things that people often get wrong about me, people actually think I'm a proud person. And sometimes people get confused about the fact that I'm busy. I'm always doing so many things. I'm always on stage, always in front of people. But I believe I'm actually a very laid back person. I like to actually be by myself when I'm alone. Mm-hmm. I like to be I'm usually very quiet when I'm at home. And so, I put on the bubbly life when I need to.
Yep.
So sometimes people can become a little bit confused. I'm always a naturally bubbly person, but I love the quietness. So I've got my little cave at home that I hide away into, so that I can have peace and quiet.
Yes. That's amazing. And I guess it's very interesting because you wear many hats.
Yes.
Right? You are a professional woman. You help nurture people. You coach people. You have been in the public health sphere for a very long time, a woman of impact. You're a leader in community. You are a mother. You are a wife. There is so much. You're an academic person. You're an author and many other things that we're going to dive into in our interview today.
Yes.
And today the discussion is not just about, the accomplishments. I think today is more about the person who you are as a person.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious to know, just like a bit of another icebreaker question that I had for you.
Yes.
How would you introduce yourself to someone who has never seen your CV?
Wow. Well, I'd say, hi, I'm Dr. Stephanie Fletcher Lartey. I'm a public health epidemiologist who wear many other hats. I'm also a pastor. I am a mom, a wife. I am a deep lover of God, and I am a very creative person. I love to sing, I write songs, I'm an actress, an author, and I can be all things to all men when it's needed.
All things to all men
Yes.
when it's needed.
Yes.
If we were to give someone from your childhood a call from 30 years ago,
Yes.
what would they say has not changed about you over the last 30 years as a professional person, or even just as an individual who you're known to be?
Oh wow. I think two things come to mind, and as you asked me that, I'm smiling because I've recently been connecting with some of my friends from high school, right? And I met one of them online recently, and she texted me. She's like, "That smile hasn't changed. I could recognize you in any room.
Wow.
That smile hasn't changed." And one of the other things my professional colleagues always say about me, and it's a bit of a joke, they always say I write an epistle.
Wow.
So when I was a young professional back in my home country, I was a public health inspector. And whenever I was given an assignment that involved writing, I would just go and put as much as I can on paper. So one of my colleagues, every time I meet her, she would say, "You know, Dr. Steph, when you were a public health inspector and we had an assignment, everybody would write a half page and you would come back with an epistle." So they said I would be the one who would come back with 4 pages while everybody would be looking at their half page,
half a page,
and
yep.
wondering, did we miss the instructions?
Yep.
So
Yep.
I love to write. And
Yep.
so people, it's one of the jokes that we have from my early days in my professional life.
Oh, that's amazing. And I guess it's no surprise that you have 3 amazing books that you've written.
Absolutely.
We'll dive into those. But I know particularly the Professional Believer's Guide
Yes.
is one that I have on my shelf. And I think it was such an inspired writing, like a piece of writing.
Yes.
Because I used to ask a lot of questions about how do you fuse your identity as an individual, your faith, your community self, your professional self, and show up in the workplace as just one total whole being.
Yeah.
So, diving into the questions for our discussion today, what would you say is the single thread that has been woven across your journey over the last 30 years as a professional woman?
Yeah, I believe the single most common thread that's really kept me throughout all of the seasons of life is a sense of purpose. I've always felt pulled by something that was bigger than me, even though I didn't know exactly what that thing is. From I was very young, I've always had this consciousness that there was more to my life than what I could see. And I maybe not would have explained it like this at that time, but I always felt this sense of there's something more that's bigger than me. And there's a sense of a pull towards that, whatever that thing was. And as a child growing up, I was introduced to my faith from really early in life. And so being a person of faith who developed a love for Jesus Christ from a very early age, and recognizing that he was the author and director of my life. As I got older and that understanding became much clearer to me, this pull started to slowly unravel, and I started to understand that there was a specific purpose that I was born for. And even though it took me many years to understand that deep sense of purpose kept me grounded, kept me moving forward, and really kept me focused on not losing myself, even though there were times when that there was a lot of temptations and a lot of risks of that happening. And I think moving to Australia made this really, really clear for me that I wasn't just making something up in my head. It was really something there that was pulling me to a greater purpose. And I want to just quickly share that an example of how this actually manifested in my life, right? So in the year 2008, I just well, 2007, I graduated with my Master's of Public Health. 2008, I went overseas to work as a short-term consultant. And while I was working, my manager suggested to me that it was very important that I move to the next level of my studies
Yes.
to get a PhD
Yep.
because of the context in which I was working. So I found a scholarship and won a scholarship to a university in Australia.
Wow.
And the journey from that time, it took about, from the moment I found a scholarship to arriving here, was about a year. It was very up and down. And many people actually didn't think that I was making the right decision to walk away from a really great job.
Yep.
I was a very senior staff, and my professional trajectory in my home country looked really good.
Yes. Yep.
So my colleagues at work, even my own family members, were a little bit uncertain if this big move of me resigning my job and moving to Australia was going to, was that aligned.
Yep.
But the day I arrived in Australia, I remember it was a winter day, so it was in July.
Yep.
And it was a kind of wet and gloomy day. But I arrived in Sydney, and I was in Broadway. And I remember that day very clearly. As I stood on the street on Broadway in Ultimo, and I looked at the university on one end and the big shopping malls and so on the other side, I felt something. It was like a key had been pushed into a door. And when the key fits and it locks in?
Yes.
That's how I felt.
Wow.
There was this deep sense of this is where you were meant to be right now.
That's amazing.
And it was a very profound feeling. I'd never been here before. I'd never been anywhere that looked like this before.
Yep.
But there was this deep knowing that I had to be here. And so my life has always had this kind of, whatever I did along the way, wherever I went, there was always that deep settled peace in me that I wasn't there by accident.
Yep.
And that I was fulfilling a part of that purpose
Yep.
that I've been feeling along the way. Yeah.
That's very interesting. I have a couple of questions that are bubbling in the back of my head. Before I jump into, you mentioned that you had a really well-established career in your home country.
Yeah.
Before deciding to move, what would you say were your greatest achievements?
Yeah. So I worked as a public health inspector. By the way, I'm from Jamaica originally. And as a very young woman, I trained as a public health inspector. So other people may recognize this as an environmental health officer in other countries. It's pretty much the exact same thing, same competencies. But in the Caribbean, we call it public health inspectors.
Yep.
So I trained as a public health inspector, and I started my career. I just turned 21.
Oh, wow.
When I graduated.
Which is nearly rare because these days, when you look at the trajectory of young people, you don't get established in your career until many years later.
That's right.
Yep.
So I was really blessed. I started out, I entered the training at 18, finished my internship, and I turned 21 few months.
Wow.
Just before graduation.
Yes.
Right? So for me, public health was like my bread and butter. And I really feel like I was born for this career.
Yep.
My personality, I'm a really people-oriented person. I love community. And back then in those days, you actually really had to be immersed into community life.
Yes.
So it was just like a hand and glove kind of situation.
Yes.
I really loved it and I thrived. So my greatest achievement, I've had so many great ones. I believe one of my greatest achievements was leaving an indelible mark in one of the communities where I served. So I was posted out to a rural community in the northeastern section of Jamaica, and I did my internship there. And part of our internship was to build relationships with the community, like community leaders, community groups, and use and leverage those relationships to help solve a public health problem at the community level.
Yeah.
So that foundation was really pivotal, and it is one of the greatest assets that I have earned in my entire professional career that is still serving me on the global platform.
Wow.
So being able to make those relationships with people at that grassroots level it was a powerful feather in my cap for the rest of my career. I learned how to connect. I learned how to engage with communities. I learned how to engage with different stakeholders. And I think one of my greatest achievements is those relationships that I was able to form from the grassroots and all the way up through my 14 and a half years serving in public health in Jamaica. And I believe I've left a legacy behind me because every time I visit, every time I meet someone who knew me from back then, they speak about the legacy that I left. My professionalism, the impact that I made as a professional at work. Quick one, 2 years ago, we went back home for Christmas and I met an old friend. She was a senior to me and she was now working at the regional office where I was working.
You started off in Jamaica.
Where I finished my job.
Yeah.
And so she came there years after I left. And she was saying that there's hardly a day that goes by when my name is not mentioned.
Wow.
So I went to visit a colleague because it wasn't the holidays yet. And I met a staff member. I didn't know her. And then I said to her, please let my colleague know Dr. Stephanie was here.
Yes.
And she's like, you're Dr. Stephanie? and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, Stephanie Fletcher? I'm like, yeah.
The Stephanie? And that's such an amazing response.
Yeah. And then I'm like, I'm really sorry. We may have met, but I don't remember who you are. And she said, we've never really met.
Wow.
But I have been working in this office for a couple of years now. And even recently, we were going through some old documentations to help us with a program.
Yes.
And we found some documents that you wrote.
Wow.
And she said, every now and then when we need something, someone has always either brought something that you developed or a policy or your name comes up almost every now and then. And I'm really grateful for that I've left a legacy behind me that, I didn't just pass through that place. I didn't just pass through that place, but there's something that's still speaking positively
about you.
About me. So I believe that's a great achievement.
At the time, did you feel like you were making such a great impact?
Oh, absolutely not.
Not at all. Like what was going through your minds during those years?
No, I think I was just showing up and doing a great job. I think for me, it was really never about me leaving an impact, or I didn't think of it that way.
Yes.
It was me just being my true self.
Wow.
It was me showing up. I've always believed in excellence.
Yes.
My dad always drilled that into us as kids. So I would always just show up at work, do a great job, but I've always been a little bit of an innovator. And now I'm realizing it. I didn't know back, but I've always been a person who thought outside the box.
Yep.
So every time, and public health is the kind of field where there's always an issue to be addressed.
Always.
Yeah. Right? And and for us as public health inspectors trained in the Caribbean, we were not just environmental health in its pure form as in like Australia. Yeah. We did everything that the nurses here do as well.
Wow.
So that was us.
Yeah.
So we were doing all the infectious disease surveillance. That was us. We were the front line of disease control as well. So when we faced problems like those, I was always thinking of, is there a better way or a more efficient way
to do things?
Or yes. So I was always that person who was like, there's got to be a better way to do this or a more efficient way to do this.
Yes. Yeah.
And now I'm looking back, I realize, you've always had a bit of an innovative streak.
I love that. I love that.
So it was never really about me making an impact. It was always me just doing the best job today. So that I could make life not just easier for myself, but also for the communities that I served. So that was really the primary focus. But my approach was, approach it with excellence, be diligent, do the best job, look out for my colleagues, and just do a great job.
Just do a great job. Now, before we jump to you then coming to Australia, there's something that I've picked up in the language that you've been using that I just want to highlight. You use the word when I was serving in this space, not when I was working. And I think there's something very interesting about the language that people use, particularly given the many hats that you wear.
Yes.
Why do you choose the word serving versus when I was working in this space?
I believe that I'm called to serve. I believe that everything I do is about serving. And to add perspective, I really believe that my work is not just something I do for the money.
Yep.
My work is not something I do because I have nothing else to do.
Yes.
So in terms of my professional role, so I believe that everything I do is part of my service, and my service is actually my worship to God.
Wow.
So
Yes.
whatever I do, I was born to do this. I was made for this. So if I'm gonna do something, I see this as service. So I never approach any task nonchalantly or half-heartedly.
Yep.
In fact, if I have to do something half-heartedly, I don't do it. If half-heartedness is what I'm going to bring, I don't show up for half-heart, because I just believe that when I show up, I must give my best. So my job has never really been about work. It's about service. So remember I mentioned that I started off working at the community level.
Yes, at the grassroots.
At the grassroots. And I feel like part of this concept was really honed for me during my training. Because when we were being trained to go out to serve to community, it was also coined as service.
Yeah.
We were told, when you go into the field as a public health inspector, you are there to serve the community.
Yep.
Right? So I've always had this understanding that when I step out, when I get into that community, when I go to work, I'm not there just to collect the salary at the end of the month.
Yes.
It's about how can I leave this space better than I found it. So it's always I'm serving. I feel like that connects then to what I believe is my calling.
Yep.
That whatever God I do here on earth, it's part of my service to the kingdom of God.
Wow, that is amazing. And not many people carry that mindset in terms of what they do. So I find that pretty inspiring. And I think there's a level of boldness that comes with that mindset and choosing to approach work in that way, especially in the world that we live in today.
Absolutely.
And now moving to you choosing to leave Jamaica, move to Australia to pursue a PhD, you are accelerating, you're on this great trajectory.
Yes.
You've landed, you find yourself in Broadway. You have this conviction that, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yes.
Tell us, how did that journey then unfold to you becoming a PhD student again? You've left all that you knew, all this glory, all these achievements. And it's almost like you're starting again, right? Rebuilding another foundation. Or did it feel like you were just building on what you're already doing? Like what was that journey like for you?
Now, absolutely. It was definitely like a brand new start. It was really a brand new start for me. Coming to Australia so I had reached what you would consider to be the peak of my career by then.
Yes.
For by God's grace, by the time I was in my 14th year, I was now regional environmental health officer.
Wow.
For a region, which is similar to be like the state head of environment in like the state of New South Wales.
Wow.
Right? So I was very senior. The next level above that was to become the national director of environmental health.
Wow.
Right? So I was a senior environmental health officer. And I won this scholarship to study at UTS, University of Technology, Sydney, in Australia, which was just such a great blessing. And a few things actually happened just around the time when I left, including I lost my dad.
Wow.
A few months before I left.
Oh, that's sad.
So just to imagine the atmosphere of me leaving home at that time. But for me, that was an important closure for me, that I was able to lay my dad to rest before I left.
Before leaving the country.
So that for me was really also a blessing in disguise, that it didn't happen after I left home.
Yeah.
So arriving in Australia in July 2009, in the middle of winter, I'm coming from the North Coast, 96 degrees in the shade, as we always say, right? Arriving in Australia in winter, and I was very unprepared as well, because I misinterpreted the weather. Anyway, that's another story for another day. But arriving here as a student, remember, I was a very senior staff.
Yes.
I had about approximately 60 staff
Wow.
that was under my direct remit,
Oh, wow.
including 3. So I was in charge of 3 parishes, and each parish has a chief. So let's think of the LHDs here in Sydney.
Yeah.
So like the head of that environmental health for that LHD was reporting to me.
Yep.
So I had 3 of those.
Yep.
And then all the other staff that reported to them. So overall, it's about 60 staff
That were reporting, that were responsible
I was
for.
responsible for.
Yeah.
An entire region. Arriving in Sydney as a student and half broke on top of that. And that part of the brokenness is another whole long story as well. But as an international student, I arrived in Sydney, it was foreign in every context of the word. Foreign, foreign, foreign. But I carried my deep sense of purpose with me.
Yes.
And that's what kept me going, because it was really difficult. I was the minority among the minorities
Yes.
in terms of students. And I was a PhD student. But I think the most challenging part of it was I came to work in the Faculty of Science under a professor of molecular biology, right? And I was the only non-scientist in the entire department.
Oh, wow.
Right? I mean, I have got a deep training in science, but for them it was pure science.
Yep.
You know, people were suiting up in their white coats and heading to the laboratory.
So like a fish out of water.
I was like a fish out of water.
Yep.
And people actually didn't get who I was. How did I explain myself? Like, who was this woman?
Yes.
So what do? You don't go to the lab? It was really, and I was not prepared at all for that kind of reception.
Yes.
So I was extremely isolated as well, even among my peers, because I didn't speak laboratory language.
Yep.
I didn't suit up and get into the lab.
Yep.
And, people just felt like somehow I didn't know what they were doing, and they didn't understand why on earth I was there.
Yes.
And so it was almost like this standoff between me and them, or them and me.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So it was really lonely at first, on top of the fact that I was far away from my own family.
Yes.
Already very lonely, leaving my family.
Yep.
Then I was isolated in my faculty. And in my team, so my professor had 3 of us. I was the only non-scientist among the 3 of us too.
Wow.
Right? But thankfully, my teammates were friendly, right? And but my skills became handy as well to them, because
Yes.
some of my other teammates did not have that strong foundation in data analysis that I had.
So
right?
now you're complementing.
I was coming from the field loaded with those things.
Yes.
So my field experience became really valuable. But thankfully, I got a job in another faculty, which was the Faculty of Nursing and Midwifery and Health. So then over there, I was really able to thrive.
Yeah.
But in general, it was really starting over, really starting from scratch again in a foreign country. I lived in a little studio flat. I was buying stuff again, And then, of course, when I graduated, it started all over again, because now I was like, I'm on my own now. So it was a lot of starting over. And a big part of what really kept me was just my faith as well, just really knowing who I was.
Yep.
Also knowing that my steps were being ordered to this place, and that I wasn't just here because I was being busybody, and I was fulfilling part of that greater purpose.
Yeah.
So that was, again, that thread that kept me stable.
Yes.
And I tried to find community. So faith community was important. I later tried to find my own diaspora community, and we will probably talk a bit more about that later on. But it was really starting over for me.
Yep.
And it was not easy.
Yep.
At all.
And I think that's very important, because when people see you now, we're talking 30 years of impact.
That's right.
Coinciding with celebrating your 50th birthday. What people tend to see are the accomplishments, the titles, the awards, the celebration.
Yes.
And often people are not privy to what has made you, what
That's
has
right.
built you to this stage.
Absolutely.
So now moving to the stage where you finished your PhD, now you're starting again in your career journey. What did that look like for you? And I guess, how has that shaped you as a leader?